The best performance of the season and a shocking loss on the blue line. Let's talk about what we know about Nashville right now on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to this Locked On Predators podcast episode. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off our Monday episode welcoming any first-time listeners and, of course, giving a shout out to our Locked On Predators insiders and our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. We appreciate your support and we'd love spending a little bit of your day with you. Also want to do an extra special shout out on this Veterans Day to all the men and women who have served in the armed forces. Thank you. And we thank your family for your service. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer with Penalty Box Radio, and my friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
So this may be a little less painful episode for Emma and I. We're going to recap the Predators' best performance of the season, Saturday night's win over Utah. We're going to include one word to describe the game. We're also going to tell you what this win does and doesn't tell us about this Predators roster, a roster that looks a little bit different on this Monday. We're going to talk about Dante Fabbro, who is headed to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Why did Trotz put him on waivers? And what does this mean for Nashville? So a lot to get to on today's show. Before we dive into it all, we do want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Okay, Emma, so we've had some tough recaps of late, 3 in a row, but today we get to talk about a Predators win. They won 4-0 Saturday at home against the Utah Hockey Club. So we're going to jump in with our one word to describe the game. Emma, how would you describe Saturday night's 4-0 win?
I'm going to go, again, not one word because we make our own rules. I'm going to say everything clicked. So it was 2 words. Like, it was like everything finally, like the stars aligned, everything finally went right when so much had been going wrong. It was like everything went right. I mean, for so long, we knew the special teams were doing well. 5-on-5 play was not, but they were able to, and like defensively they were struggling. But it was like that win over Utah, it was like finally everything seemed to be clicking at once. It wasn't like, oh, if one thing goes well, something else doesn't. It was like finally, and it'd be nice to see that sustained for more than one game, but
yeah,
we'll take it for now.
TBD, to be determined. I don't know, tonight against Colorado. We'll talk about that in this episode as well. My one word, I'm actually going to quote Luke Evangelista and my grandma Ruth. 2 people who I didn't really ever think would say the same thing ever in their life. But on Saturday morning after morning skate, I got a chance to chat with Luke Evangelista talking about what does this team need to do to move past this frustration, move past these struggles, and to put things together. And he said, we need to play with, and I quote, piss and vinegar, which was something that my grandmother used to say.
So did mine.
Mine.
Yeah. Yes. My mama used to say that. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I never would have expected that to come out of Luke Evangelista's mouth. Of all people.
I'm like, is he an old person trapped in a young person's body? I don't know. But we got done and I stopped recording and I said, I just have to tell you, my Graham said piss and vinegar all the time. And he goes, did she really? And I'm like, my Graham never said peeper. She never said any of the other weird things.
Jibs or zips.
Zips.
Yeah.
Nothing. But Luke Evangelista and my Graham talked about doing things with piss and vinegar. And that is exactly what you saw from the Nashville Predators. It was execution, like you said, that, so many areas where they did not execute well, they were executing well. But it was also the attitude in which they were executing things. This was a team that played with some piss and some vinegar, and you love to see it. We're going to talk coming up later. How sustainable is this and what do we know for sure? But today, we celebrate the piss and vinegar that was the Nashville Predators on Saturday. Of course, we always reach out to our Locked On Predators insiders before, during, and after games just to sort of chat, and we ask them for their one word. Chris, I think, wins the one word this week. Chris's one word is catalyst. This is one they can really build on moving forward if they play their cards right. Bruno needs to keep the lines together. They all looked in sync tonight. And I think that what Chris is talking about is the hope of everybody watching this Nashville Predators team, because this was their most complete game. Can they use this to turn a page? It's a big ask because, look, we've seen them win games before and not be able to sustain what they need to do. I think this is different in that you saw better performances in all of those little areas, like you talked about with your one word, Emma. So I have hope that perhaps this could be the catalyst game. Is this the U2 canceled concert game we've all been waiting for? I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see. Of course, I want to highlight Philip Forsberg had 2 goals. We were on Philip Forsberg Hattie Watch, which just is a beautiful thing. But the one goal that Philip Forsberg had was so, I don't even know another adjective except to say Forsberg-esque, just so great. And so I wanted to play a clip from Andrew Brunette and Philip Forsberg after the game talking about Forsberg's goal and his performance. This is what they had to say.
Well, I was just basically, I'm going to grab the puck, go around everybody and score a goal. And it was a big goal. And I think it just, obviously for our group, that was much needed, that 3-goal lead. And to see Phil be Phil and take over a game is really important for our group.
Yeah, I was just trying to get going. I'm not the fastest guy in the world, but had a little bit of time to wind up at least, and then kind of just try to weave through and find an opening, and it worked. So I think that's what I want to do every night. Obviously, not necessarily. I mean, I love to score goals like that every night, but just kind of lead with that power and that that speed and see where it takes me.
One of the things that I think that we tend to forget about Philip Forsberg, because here in Nashville, we see the finesse, we see the high skill that he has. I think we forget that he is strong and built like a brick poop house. Like, you forget he really is a power forward, and you watch that play and you're like, this is what happens when you put like brute Swedish strength with just high hockey skill. It was beautiful.
He's you're right. It's one of those plays where you're reminded that he is a kind of a unicorn and that he is a true power forward. He is so skilled. He has great hands. He has a great shot. But he's also so incredibly difficult to move off the puck because he is a big, strong guy. And it's usually, again, I say he's kind of a unicorn because usually it's one or the other, or much more of one than the other. And you actually, kind of saw that. It was like watching that. It was like Moses parting the Red Sea. It just seemed like he just went through and guys just went flying around him. And it was like, and it didn't even look like, it's not like he was throwing elbows or anything like that. It was just like he just split them in two and they went flying the other direction and he had a clear path to the goal. And so it was just like what I liked what Bruno said about how he can, kind of take over a game. And all due respect, and this isn't meant to be a knock on anyone else on the team or any other player anywhere for that matter, but that's something that it's a skill that not even like good players, really good players, not every player can have that specific skill, that ability to take over a game like that. Mm-hmm. And Phil has that skill. I'd say Roman Yosi also has that skill. We haven't seen it yet this year, but he does. He's shown us time and time again that he does. And sometimes you need that. Like, you need someone to just come in and take over and say, okay, I'm jump in, I'm driving, like, let's go.
Yes.
And that was kind of what we saw from Phil there.
I agree with what you're saying. I was thinking about this before the podcast, talking about Phil and in the same thing, Roman Yosi. There are players who can take over the game, but there are part of that is so magic about the two of them is that they drag the team with them. Like they can make the plays, but they bring with them the team. They bring the belief. Like there is something that happens when his teammates watch Phil Forsberg do what he did, scoring that goal, or what Roman Yosi can do. There is something about those two players in particular that when they get going, it just brings out the next level in everybody else. And that is such a unique skill set. Like you said, great players may not be able to do that particular thing. So to see Forsberg really take over was great. A couple of the other one words that we got, Rebecca said solid, encouraging, which I'm like, yep, that's it. Megan said redemption. Oh, we need this is a team that needed not just the win, but they needed a performance like this. It's not even about the 2 points. It's about they needed to show that they could do it. Dustin's one word, rad, which I'm like, I believe we must be from the same generation. This game was awesome from start to finish, and it's a sign of how things can be if they can just keep it up. So fun. Now, it wasn't necessarily a perfect game, but there was a lot to like about this game. Coming up, we're going to talk about the takeaways from this game and what Nashville needs to do tonight against the Colorado Avalanche. But we also are going to spend some time talking about putting Dante Fabbro on waivers and allowing him to become a Columbus Blue Jacket for free. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. It's the way daily fantasy sports should be played. It is not you against 1,000 strangers. It's just you against the PrizePicks projections for your favorite players in your favorite sports. PrizePicks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, they're safe and secure. When your picks hit, you can withdraw your money in as quick as 15 minutes. Look, we know Nashville relies big time on Juuse Saros. He came through for the Preds big time on Saturday, so why not include a more pick on Saros saves as the team heads out on the road? Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL, and you're going to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNHL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So check out all the fun at PrizePicks. Run your game. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. If you are looking forward to seeing this Predators team play this season, or if you just are looking to make some great memories with family and friends, you've got to check out the deals at Game Time. Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to get tickets for your favorite sports, music, theater, and comedy. If you are looking for some great hockey experiences right now, Game Time is having an exclusive zone deal for the NHL Winter Classic event at Wrigley Field. You can go to the Game Time app to purchase tickets, and you're going to get 10% off bleacher seating and 20 to 25% off on home plate area seats. Game Time has a low price guarantee and the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. All right, Emma, we get to recap a really good Predators win. You'd said this feels like, they put a lot of little things together, and we've tried to sort of explain this through the first rocky start to the season. It's not necessarily that Nashville has struggled with one big thing. It's that so many little things have not gone well all at the same time. And it's been a perfect storm. And I think Saturday night, we saw a lot of those little things kind of self-correct. But when you're looking at this team, what do you think is the most important thing for them to sustain if they want to keep playing the way that they did?
All of it. No,
Yeah.
I think,
I know. It's like you want to drop one ball and what's going to happen?
yeah. No, I think it's, just like this isn't necessarily a tangible thing, but kind of like that trust and belief in each other and the system. It was very clear watching that game against Utah that you know, they were buzzing. They looked like they were buzzing, and we hadn't really seen that yet this season. It was like you're feeling good about yourself, feeling good about the rest of your team, feeling good about how you're doing, and I think that affects how you play. And I think just being able to carry that confidence and that trust into situations where, maybe you fall behind, you're playing from behind or whatever. Obviously they played from behind a lot this year. So I think that being able to still carry that confidence in your group and in the way that that you can play, like being able to carry that mentality into those situations moving forward where you are going to be, facing adversity. And I think that will help, and it'll go a long way into how they respond to adversity moving forward.
Yeah. And one of the things that we've heard through this first stretch, from the players and even from Andrew Brunette is like they're not playing like a 5-man unit when they're out on the ice. And I think you saw that communication piece and you saw that connection piece that they have said that's missing. We're not communicating, we're not connected when we're out on the ice. When they are connected, you see a performance like you saw Saturday night. You see the puck movement being crisp and clear, and you see the Predators entering and exiting zones and getting through the neutral zone and setting up, quality chances. I do hope that they can build on this confidence. And I think they can. The wins that they have had before have been pretty hard fought. And I don't think we've seen them play a 60-minute game as good as the one they played against Utah. Again, not perfect, but I think it was their best look. And so hopefully we can play 60 minutes and get it done. I hope that carries over for them, because I do think a lot of this is confidence and mentality in some respects for this team, these struggles.
Yeah, for sure. And it, like you said, it wasn't perfect. There are definitely some things that can be cleaned up, but I think that it was a complete effort. And it's one of those things that, before it almost just felt like the effort wasn't there. Like they weren't finishing chances. They weren't even attempting to finish chances, just things like that, where it just seemed like it was a lack of effort. If you're going to if you're going to lose games or even, fall short in certain plays or certain things, you want to at least see that the effort is there. Be like, okay, well, it's not for lack of trying or, whatever it is. And I think that was clear in the game against Utah. It was the first real, again, I keep coming back to this, and I know they had the same score. It was a 4-0 win over Boston earlier in the season, but even that did not feel like a dominant performance the way that this did. It just seemed like, Boston was committing a ton of penalties, and it just seemed like, not that they fed it to Nashville, but it was just like, it seemed like, okay, in that particular moment, like Nashville did look like the better team and they should have won that. And even throughout the process, they were still giving up odd man rushes all the time. And it was like, like you are kind of on the edge of your seat. And even though it ended up being 4-0, it didn't really feel like it. But this game against Utah was like, okay, Nashville came, they came to do business and they took care of it. And that was, I feel like the first win this season that has really felt like that for Nashville.
Yes. I love what you're talking about effort. And Andrew Burnett talked about it. Frustration makes you think you're working harder than you are. And I think we've seen struggles with effort that probably didn't feel like it to the Predators. I had a vocal teacher long time ago that always said, if you're going to sing a wrong note, sing it at the top of your lungs. And I feel like, Nashville, like they sang at the top of their lungs in this game. Unfortunately, it was the right note. But I agree with you. Like you have to play with, as our Grams and Luke Evangelista says, you've got to play every game with that piss and vinegar.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to help them. Here is what's not going to help the Nashville Predators moving forward. That's defenseman Dante Fabbro. Because Dante Fabbro, not a Nashville Predator anymore, placed on waivers and picked up by the Columbus Blue Jackets. So Dante Fabbro in Columbus now, his $2.5 million contract off the books. Emma, I'm just going to ask you as professionally as I know how, what the flag nog? What?
Yeah, I have so many thoughts. And you know what? I've said this, I've gone back and forth on this. I've told you this, like even before we started recording. I'm thinking like I am trying. I'm not going to pretend that I know any more about hockey or managing a hockey team than Barry Trotz does. Not going to pretend that I do, but so I'm going to try to reserve, total judgment until I see what the ultimate plan is here. But it's very hard for me to do that in this situation because like no part of this makes sense. Like I think there are a lot of reasons. First of all, my feelings about Dante Fabbro have been well documented on this show. I'm a big fan of Dante Fabbro. I think he does a lot of things really well. He is a very reliable defenseman and a valuable piece to have who can play throughout the lineup. It was odd though. He was always kind of used, and you don't see this a lot in the NHL, where he was either top pairing with Roman Yosi or he didn't play at all. Like there was no in between.
Yes.
That was bizarre. That was very bizarre to me. And again, I understand, this season in particular, you bring in Brady Shea and you don't want to bury him on your third pairing. I get that with that salary, makes total sense. So I'm like, maybe let's try Fabbro further down in the lineup. Like, nope, we're going to bench him.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And again, another defenseman who my feelings about are well documented is Luke Schenn. Love the guy. I think he's fantastic. I do not think fantastic person. I don't think that this team is better with him on it. However, I'm also not naive enough to think that they would ever even consider putting Luke Schenn on waivers, even though like objectively I would rather 10 out of 10 times would rather have Dante Fabbro out there than Luke Schenn. I also am 100% aware of how the Predators organization feels about Luke Schenn. He's not going anywhere. I know that. So I'm not surprised by that by any means, but I am still upset because Dante Fabbro, cheaper and better and younger than Luke Schenn. And he's now the one that's gone. And he's a guy that you kind of look at a little bit like, what are we doing, Barry? What are we doing?
Yes.
Because it's like he still has value. And right now it's tough because you think, okay, you want to trade him, get something for him, get a 7th round pick or something.
Come on.
Like, even though he's worth more than that, like it would be a steal, I think. But the problem is 2.5 million. That's the kinds of players who are getting placed on waivers at this point in the season are making far, far, far less than that. So that's a significant cap hit for this early in the season. So, and that's why several teams passed on him when he hit the waiver wire before Columbus got to him, because it goes in reverse order of the standings. So Columbus is one of the very few teams that actually has a lot of cap space to work with right now. So they picked him up. And, I do think that he is a guy who can benefit from a change of scenery, just with how his tenure in Nashville has gone. But I think that it just, so much of this does not make sense to me because it's like, why wouldn't you try to get something for him? It's a little bit like totally different situations. So I'm not trying to say they're exactly the same, but in terms of this one characteristic, I think it's similar to when Barry Trotz traded Cody Glass over the summer and got, again, no disrespect, but Jordan Frasca, ECHL player, like for Cody Glass, a former first round pick, like what are we doing? What are we doing? And then, you have, obviously this wasn't Trotz, this was David Poyle, but you had the Ellie Tolvanen thing just happened a couple years ago. People still aren't over that. And it's like, and then you had Askarov. Now Askarov was not traded away for a bag of peanuts, or anything, and he wasn't put on waivers, but still, that's so many first round picks now that you have let go away for nothing or almost nothing. Again, Askarov aside, they did not get nothing for him, but still, it just seems very, it's becoming a bit of a trend that's a tad concerning. Especially because Fabbro has been on the trade block for years. It feels like every year, every trade deadline, every offseason, every trade deadline, his name always comes up. And it's for that reason that I said before, like, he is a top pairing defenseman on a lot of teams who makes not very much money for a top pairing defenseman. So it's like, this would be kind of a steal. And it's almost like Trotz lost leverage by dangling him out there so aggressively, because now teams are thinking like, all right, well, he clearly wants to get rid of this guy. We can get him off waivers for free. And that's kind of like, it seems like what happened. And it's just, it's hard for me to wrap my head around this one. But again, I will try to reserve full judgment until I see what the grand plan is, because obviously it does create cap space. Again, like you said, the 2.5 million comes off the books. That's now space that the Predators have. I will say to anyone who uses Puckpedia, I love Puckpedia, fantastic product, and I use them all the time. They do great work. But I will just say, be warned, if you look on Puckpedia to see what the Predators cap situation is right now, the number that Puckpedia uses to talk about what the Predators cap space is for this season, it includes the $4 million that is owed to Ryan Johansson in his contract termination by the Flyers, which has not yet been finalized. So that's
correct.
$4 million so that number is not entirely accurate at this time. So I'd say a more realistic look at how much cap space the Preds have now is about 3.2 million. Give or take. And so, because again, we don't want to bank on that Johansson money. Now, maybe Barry
It'd be
Trotz,
great if it comes, but
maybe Barry Trotz knows something we don't. I don't know, but I think that, if you include the Johansson money, then it's like, oh wow, this Fabbro waiver thing was a great idea, great call. And it's like, well, it doesn't really do as much as you would think.
Yeah. Coming up, we're going to wrap up our Dante Fabbro kerfuffle discussion, and we're going to tell you what Emma and I are looking forward to this week. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it's all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more. And it's all on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Emma, I think you mentioned something that's so key as we look at this Dante Fabbro situation, and that is context. And without some sort of context, this feels not great. You're giving up a first round pick for nothing. Yes, you're getting $2.5 million in cap space, but when you look at the Predators situation, that's not going to go out and get you that 2C probably that you're dying to get. So I hope that there is more context to this that will make it feel a little better. And I'm just going to throw out what is pure speculation. This is, as Emma and I say, this is not reporting. This is just, I am wondering this. This is pure speculation. And I think about this situation with Dante Fabbro, and I'm like, is this a case of the Predators are looking to have some of these younger players come up in the blue line? Spencer Stastny, we don't know his situation, don't know whether he's coming back, but if he were to come back, that frees up some space there. But that they're big on some defensive players in Milwaukee as well. So maybe they're like, hey, we've got a lot in the pipeline with, Ufko and Willsby and Molendyke. And so Dante Fabbro is just one of those players that falls through the cracks between the now and the not yet. You have to wonder, is Barry Trotz kind of storing up nuts like a chipmunk, gonna go after somebody, and clearing some cap space? Potentially, that could be something that happens. But this is a very hard move to feel okay about when we don't have that context. Because what we know right now on the outside is you just gave away a first-round pick who is a solid player for nothing. And that doesn't feel great. Hopefully Barry Trotz will unfold a plan where we'll say, okay, I understand why this happened. But today, not so much, Emma. Not so much.
Yeah, like I said, I'm trying to reserve full judgment until we have that context, but it is hard right now.
Yeah, it is. Emma, coming up, it is the Predators' Western road trip. Of course, tonight they are taking on the Colorado Avalanche, who the Predators beat just recently. The Avalanche really are coming off of a great game. They snapped Carolina's win streak with a 6-4 win. Avs tonight. They've got the Oilers Thursday, Calgary Friday. On Sunday, the Vancouver Canucks. All of these games on the road. Emma, when you look ahead to these games, what is something that you are looking forward to, or a storyline that you think we should keep an eye on?
Well, first, starting with Colorado tonight, I think what's going to be important is that this is not the same Colorado team that they faced the last time. So Colorado has since gotten back Arturi Lehkonen, who is back from his, I think it was it shoulder surgery? He had surgery during the offseason. So he has since made his season debut for Colorado. He's been a big impact guy with them, kind of given them a jolt on offense, some familiarity there because they've been dealing with some other injuries and such. I will say, I think Nashville is a little lucky that they are playing Colorado on November 11th because the Avalanche will be getting Val Nichushkin back on November 15th from his suspension.
Thank you. We've got that.
And he, again, he's coming off a suspension, not an injury. So he has been, while he cannot practice with the team during his suspension, he's still been training and conditioning. And November 15th, once he is reinstated, he will go straight into the lineup. 100%. And that is something that, again, like Nashville kind of caught a break with that one, but I still think it's important that this Avalanche team has gotten some boosts since they last saw them. So definitely don't want to coast into Colorado, thinking this is going to be a cakewalk. But overall, I think, and we've been talking about this for a while, but I think that an extended time away on the road for this team at this juncture is going to be a good thing. Mm-hmm. Again, if they can keep the momentum and the cohesion and the chemistry that they showed against Utah, if they can keep that going. And I hope that this, back to the Fabbro situation, there are some guys in the locker room who are really close with him off the ice. I hope that this doesn't, rattle the group too much. But maybe it did kind of light a fire under them and say like, hey, you don't want to get Fabbro'd, if you don't perform, not that Fabbro wasn't performing, he wasn't getting a chance to, but I think it does kind of put everyone on notice a little bit and maybe kind of keeps them on their toes a little bit. So I think it's just something that I want to see the sustained effort and the cohesion and the chemistry that comes from extended time together off the ice, which I think they will get more of on this road trip.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's see what some time away does for them. These are also going to be tough games. And if the Predators drop a game, I'm curious to see, how do you bounce back against a really challenging opponent in the next game? It would be great if they came home from a 5-game, road stretch with 10 points. If they lose a game, how much is that going to affect the confidence of this team? Because I think it's still very shaky. The other thing I will say that I am looking forward to / dreading with every cell in my body, and I think, Emma, you probably agree with me on this. We're going to see Kevin Lankinen likely playing for the Vancouver Canucks in net. And if you know anything about Emma and I, this is locked on Kevin Lankinen. Just top tier person. And his goaltending performance for Vancouver has been incredible. Also, going to be reunited with Kiefer Sherwood. And I'm curious to see just how chippy Kiefer Sherwood is with his former teammates. Dear heavens, I do not want to see a Michael McCarron Kiefer Sherwood fight. I don't want to see it. I just want us all to get along.
Let's just all be friends, guys. Remember the good times.
Remember how much you loved each other. So I think that is going to be a game that I'm definitely watching. And that, of course, is going to be a Sunday night game at 9 p.m. These are all going to be later start times. So get your nap in, drink your coffee late, because the Preds are on this Western stretch. Again, tonight, facing off against Colorado in Colorado, 8 p.m. puck drop in this game. We'll be back on tomorrow's episode. We're going to recap the game, including one word to describe whatever we see. And we're going to talk through some of the events at the Hockey Hall of Fame induction. Nashville well represented there as well. Before we sign off for this episode, Emma, let everyone know where they can find you and your work.
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work at Penalty Box Radio as well. That is going to do it for this Monday episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We're going to be back tomorrow with that Avs Preds recap. We'll see you then.